Abrego Garcia is back on U.S. soil, but now the Maryland man is facing serious federal charges. You might remember Abrego Garcia was deported in March to El Salvador, despite questions around the legality of that move. Since then, his family and lawmakers have been pushing to bring him back to the States. Thank you for staying up with us tonight. I'm Leslie Foster, and here are three things we know right now where the case stands. First, Abrego Garcia landed in Tennessee and went before a judge this afternoon. He will stay there until his next hearing next week. Second, he's been indicted on 2 criminal charges. And lastly, just a few hours ago, President Trump, who has been outspoken about not allowing Abrego Garcia to return to the U.S., he talked about his return and those charges.
Was this your call to bring him back to the United States?
I don't want to say that.
Mr. President, you posted yesterday.
And by the way, either way, it's a disaster. It's a whole disaster when you look at him with his antics. Not good. And for the Democrats who have backed him, this was not the man from Maryland, this wonderful father from Maryland. This is a pretty bad guy.
Tonight, we have team coverage on this high-profile case. Let's begin with our Katie Lusso to break down what's in this indictment and the serious charges he's facing. Katie.
Yeah, and Leslie, just in the last 30 minutes, we got these new courtroom sketches into our newsroom of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from the hearing this afternoon. Now, tonight, as you mentioned, Leslie, we learned that his next hearing is a week from today. But tonight, United States Attorney General Pam Bondi called him a danger to our community, accusing him of trafficking guns, drugs, women, and children.
This was his full-time job, not a contractor. He was a smuggler.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Damn, he's being charged with being a human trafficker, a smuggler of children and arms. Let me tell you this. If Donald Trump and his judicial department don't have a good case and they're just bringing up charges just to do this to this guy, oh my God. But let's turn it around the other way. What if this is true? What if these are facts? What if this dude really is a smuggler of people, sneaking people into the country? That's how he got here. He originally came here as an illegal immigrant sneaking into the country, which is what my biggest problem is with the support that he's receiving. We have to understand and be realistic about the way things go. You don't sneak into a country and then all of a sudden you're hailed as some hero and you're being charged with felonies. It doesn't look good for him. They have to have some kind of evidence. I don't understand how he could be being charged as an attorney, and if there's no evidence in this, he shouldn't have nothing to worry about. But 3 felonies and being here as an illegal immigrant, whatever he gets out of this, he will be deported when this is over with.
Is back in the United States and now facing criminal charges in what the government called an administrative error. He was deported to a prison in El Salvador in March. Last month, he was indicted by a grand jury, and Friday, the 2-count indictment was unsealed. It lists 2 charges: conspiracy to transport aliens and unlawful transportation of undocumented aliens.
That's a trip that Trump and his Department of ICE in the beginning said, hey, we made an error. We deported Abrego in error. It was a mistake. And it was kind of messed up. But out of the millions of people or hundreds of thousands or thousands of people that they ultimately will process and deal with in that system, you feel like one person ain't that bad to accidentally deport. But you would not like to be any. But it's bound to happen. But if you have 100% of the people being deported because they snuck into the country illegally, and then somehow through the niceness of the United States government and its laws, that person has some type of recourse, has an ability to sue or fight this in court after sneaking out. It's just too much. We pay too much for too many who don't pay into the system. They pull out of the system. And I know a lot of people say they have jobs and they'd be paying a lot more if they were legal citizens. And if these companies who hire them would have some kind of everybody's like all on the illegal immigrants. Okay, let's all agree that they come over here for a better life. All right, I get it. But what about the companies that hire them, hire illegal immigrants? Are they doing them a favor? Or are they doing themselves a favor? Because if they were taking any kind of a hit economically, they wouldn't be doing it. They're doing it because it's a benefit to them to pay a lower wage, to have workers who get injured. I saw a lady being arrested the other day, and she had run through the factory trying to hide and kind of bumped her leg or something, or it might have been hurt before they got there, but it looked like she hurt it and moved, trying to get away. And she came kind of with a hip or knee looking limp. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, you're an undocumented worker. Workers' comp, what's that? You can't even open a workers' comp case. And if you can, then you should be a legal citizen. And they probably do have provisions where illegal immigrants can file workers' comp suits if they're injured. Because if they don't, then it's way worse than I thought. But they should at least have that ability. And when I say that, I want to finish it up by saying, and they should not have that ability. I mean, just for the humaneness of allowing people to come into your country and work as if they're citizens, yeah, it should be taken care of in that way. But for the rest of us, it doesn't benefit us to have people benefiting from systems that are put in place for us. And they're being flooded by a bunch of illegal immigrants, and our government's doing nothing about it but yelling in the streets that the Republicans are wrong for doing this, and the Republicans are yelling in the street because the Democrats are wrong for doing that. But we are the ones taking it in the shorts. The American people, the American public, the people who are taking this Abrego guy and turning him into some kind of a national hero. I will sit back with bated breath for this one. I want to know if this guy is guilty of any of this stuff they're accusing him with or for. I'm sorry. It'd be very difficult to see them going after him in this way. The only problem I have is that they did say we arrested him in error. That lets me know that they had a pretty good understanding of who they not arrested, deported him in error. And by them saying that lets me know that they made a mistake in the deportation of him. Now, maybe in order to save face, they did a further investigation, and it was like, wow, look what we discovered by looking a little deeper into this guy. And if this is true, because the Democrats are lined up behind this guy in support, I don't know if they've done an independent investigation or it's just based on the fact that they're trying to oppose the other team. But if that guy is found to be a human trafficker, a child trafficker, an arms trafficker, or trafficking of anything illegally into this country except for himself, there should be a very serious problem there with the Democrats, and the Democrats should come out and, as loud as they're screaming and speaking for you to get your hands off of that man, they should be screaming and yelling for everybody to accept their apology because they made a horrible mistake and supported somebody who may end up being convicted of something very serious. That's the only way he was brought back to the country, is to stand up for these felonies that they have waiting on him. Other than that, he'd probably still be in the jail over there in El Salvador.
He made over 100 trips. This defendant trafficked firearms and narcotics throughout our country on multiple occasions.
It was filed in Tennessee, where Abrego Garcia was stopped by law enforcement in 2022.
How many rows have you got in here? 4?
Where?
4 seats? 4 rows of seats?
In police body camera footage, you can hear the officer ask him about the number of seats. Investigators say he was driving a van with 8 other men in the car. None of them had ID.
Nothing.
Isn't that weird? And I mean, that's really Abrego there, driving a car with 8 men. It seemed like the police was a little bit like, you ain't got no drugs in here. But I don't think whenever that happened, we had a president in office who was obviously pressing these guys to, be kind of strict, or at least pay attention, or at least do your job when it came to pulling over a carload of men, and 8 of them in the back potentially could have been illegal immigrants. Hell, the one driving the car was Abrego. And It just doesn't make a lot of sense for us to be fighting this fight. We need to fight to get this immigration stuff straightened out so we can see how good and kind these companies' hearts really are. Let's see if Abrego and all these guys can go and get these jobs as easily, and our jobs be readily hiring them, or will it be a little bit of a problem when the wage goes up? Because that could be a big issue. And that's where I think we're heading with this humanitarian type fake stuff. They don't care about them guys. They don't care about those women that they put in these food processing plants, and they got them living in compounds down in the South with barbed wire and brick walls going around the facilities. It looks like a prison. I went to visit family in the South, and I thought that the damn facility was a prison because it looks like what our prisons look like, but it's actually a compound where they house them, the illegal immigrants. They house the illegal immigrants and provide them with work, all the work they can handle for a low rate. I'm sure the accommodations of where to sleep and having food available and that kind of stuff probably is looked at as part of the wage. And some people might think that's fine because it's better than where they came from. Well, if they came here for a better life, they should get the best life they can get. Not a better life. The best life they can get, which should be on par or equal with what any other citizen in this country gets. And they should come here, achieve that citizenship status, and then we should roll out the red carpet. But until that happens, we should not be rolling out the red carpet. And right now we're rolling out the red carpet, and I don't know why.
Legal?
Nothing, sir.
No drugs or anything?
No herb, nothing legal.
He wasn't charged with anything at the time. When asked what changed, why is he being charged now?
What has changed is Donald Trump is now president of the United States, and our borders are again secure.
She says the accusations are disturbing.
A co-conspirator alleged that the defendant solicited nude photographs and videos of a minor. A co-conspirator also alleges the defendant played a role in the murder of a rival gang member's mother.
This just makes crystal clear what we've been saying, frankly, for the past 2 months, is that they've been playing games with the court.
His legal team tonight calling the accusations absurd.
Well, his legal team should be saying they're absurd if they're defending him properly. But in the grand scheme of things, is this true of what we're hearing? Are there men in federal prison who were arrested in the same kind of an operation or in the same operation that he was a part of? Maybe he just didn't get sent to federal prison or even get arrested. Does that mean he's innocent? Did it even happen? If they got informants, these informants are going to have to come forward with more than just a statement. They're going to have to be able to prove some things. That traffic stop, in hindsight, could be used against them. Right now, they might have seemed harmless. It didn't seem harmless to me. I've been in a car with people who look like me who've all had ID. And we get way more problems than that. 8 guys in a car with no ID, and the police are asking, what's going on here? Are we coming up on anything illegal? And they're asking the driver, are we good? You ain't doing nothing. No drugs, no nothing. Everything's legal. And he's an illegal immigrant. That's a lie on his face.
Almost all of the information they have comes from 2 supposed co-conspirators, both of whom have already been federally prosecuted and who are likely sitting in a federal prison somewhere. So the very first question I'm going to be asking is, what were those 2 people offered to make up these really fantastic,
That's how the legal system works in the United States. If they can't get you, they find somebody to tell on you. And then when that person tells, it seems like whether they're in prison or not, they're looked at as a very credible source when it favors the government. So it should be the same exact way. Or when they say, hey, you know what? You did a lot of harm. You child trafficked, you raped, you did this. But in order to get the guy we really want, we'll put that out of our mind. And you come in and do a good job for us as a witness. And we'll get our guy, and then you can go on about your life. That shows how important it is to them. It's not that important. It's a game they play, and it depends on who it's favoring at each particular time as to how they're going to talk about it. Well, I just think it's unfair that they're going to just go get some guys out of a federal prison. These guys might really have some information. These guys might be able to say, Abrego, whatever his name is, oh my God, this could turn out really bad for him. or it could be nothing. And if it is, then the exact same light that was I said should be shown on the Democrats should be shown on the Republicans. Somebody need to make clearly sure that everybody understands, because I think most of my friends already get it, but that the United States government will and can and is capable of putting false charges on folks. But this one here is going to need to be watched, because the Democrats blindly jumped behind this guy. And in a time when we have so many other victims in the United States, victims at the hands of the police, victims at the hands of the judicial system, victims at the hands of corporations in the United States, and they pick Abrego. They better have picked a winner. I'm telling you, because I don't think they have their facts straight. And they might be blindly supporting a guy, and it might go well for him, but it doesn't seem very smart to be blindly backing up a guy. And Trump is making such a big deal up to and including the Supreme Court in this particular guy in his life and his ability to come back to the United States. And I don't know if I'd want to blindly just jump on board that. I'd want to figure out where I'm getting myself, or is it even necessary to get involved in that?
Hyperbolic allegations against Mr. Abrego Garcia.
Now, Bondi says if he is convicted, he'll serve his time in the U.S. and then be sent back to El Salvador. Now, his attorney, as you heard him say, they plan to fight this every step of the way. Leslie.
All right, Katie, that is part one of this story. The next thing is he's here. And Abrego Garcia's return is raising more questions than answers. So what's next in his legal fight? Melissa Kim joins us now. Melissa, what are the chances that he's able to stay in the United States or be sent back to El Salvador? Do we know that yet?
Well, Leslie, we do. I spoke to an immigration lawyer tonight who said, make no mistake, Kilmar Abrego Garcia's return was handled in a very deliberate way. And tonight, his attorney had strong words about the process.
What happened today is an abuse of power. What happened today is the exact opposite of due process, because due process means the opportunity to defend yourself before you're punished, not afterwards.
Kelly Ortega Escobar is an immigration attorney. She says the Trump administration pressing criminal charges of conspiracy to bring undocumented migrants to the U.S. indirectly complies with the previous Supreme Court order to bring Abrego Garcia back to the U.S.
This was a way that they could facilitate his return under their own terms to keep the narrative going that Kilmar is a criminal, that Kilmar is a gang member.
So what happens?
Yeah, at the end of the litigation, after we find out what's going on here in the courtroom, this guy will be either innocent or guilty. And we will have enough information on Abrego to understand what was this all about. Was somebody's lying here, and the Republicans have doubled down by filing felony charges against this guy. This ain't just like talking bad about him on a news conference or a press conference. This is actually charging this guy with something. So now something's got to happen. And if it doesn't, the Democrats are going to look like geniuses. But if it does, something happens to that guy, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near the Democrats. They're going to have to explain it. And it just goes like a lot of other stuff they're supporting lately. The Democrats are getting behind stuff that they should work. They need to go work on themselves. They got some work that needs to be done. And it is not trying to fight for one guy who you want to rise up to hero status, and you may have picked the wrong guy to support.
Next, a federal judge in Tennessee will determine if Abrego Garcia will be tried in front of a jury or just face a judge.
However it ends up, whether he's convicted or not, he will then return to immigration custody. And the result of this case will definitely be a key factor in an immigration proceeding, whether he gets to keep that protection that he had been given to remain in the United States, or if this is sufficient to remove that protection.
Ortega Escobar believes the Trump administration is sending a message to other immigrants.
We see you as criminals. We will, even if we do something wrong, even if we deny you due process, we will find a way to press charges. I think this is the Trump administration's try.
It just sounds so mean the way they say it. Trump is just like he's just trying to jab these illegal immigrants and make their life miserable. I personally believe that he is on the right track, but it's only half of it. And that's the problem that I have, is that both of them, the Democrats and the Republicans, want to solve this problem and on the backs of these people, when they could solve this problem by legislating and by dealing with these corporations who are hiring them. Let them know, make it clear. If anybody sneaks into this country, we're not going to let them sleep on the street. We're going to take care of them as best we can, but we're going to process them, give them their day in court, and send them back to their country unless they qualify for some type of asylum. Other than that, they got to go back where they came from. They can't come over and suck up our resources no more. And our Democratic leaders, our Democratic politicians and representatives can't keep telling us that it's no big deal. And we're tired of being broke. We're tired of being hungry. And every time there's an opportunity, which is any time, there's always more you push on the plate, and it's more people and the same amount of food. We got to figure it out. And you guys have to support your constituents. You got to support the people who voted for you. And these press conferences and news conferences need to be about us and not Abrego.
To keep the word criminal and immigrant intertwined.
Her advice for immigrants:
the best thing that an immigrant can do right now is to know their rights, to speak with prepared and proper immigration counsel.
Now, Abrego Garcia is set to be arraigned a week from today, as we've been telling you, on those conspiracy charges. He will remain in federal custody in Tennessee until then, and we'll be following it every step of the way. Leslie?
Yeah, so hopefully we will learn more next week about whether he will actually make it back to Maryland. We'll see.
Oh, we will. Abrego got a long road ahead of him. I mean, I hope in my heart that the guy is just a guy who's been mislabeled or misidentified. That might be part of being undocumented. Maybe they got the wrong guy. But that was him driving that car with 8 people in the back and a passenger. But the 8 people in the back didn't have identification. That's just kind of weird. You know, it just is. And you can call it profiling and all that. If you're a police officer and you pull over a vehicle in certain parts of the country and it got 8 adult Mexican men with no ID on them, it wouldn't be unrealistic. In fact, if you didn't think that there's a potential that they're illegal immigrants, if you didn't think that, then maybe you didn't do too good in the academy. Maybe you barely made it out, because anybody should be able to kind of draw that relationship. How you proceed from then might be, I'm going to alert a higher up. I'm going to alert somebody else who can come in and make a call on this. But it just might be your pay grade to identify it at least. But they ain't even doing that.
All right, we've got new reaction on this case from Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown. In a statement, he said, and we're quoting here, discussions of possible criminal charges only emerged after Mr. Abrego Garcia's wrongful removal. If those concerns were credible and supported by evidence, they should have been addressed through lawful means before violating a standing judicial order. We're also hearing from other Maryland lawmakers. Representative Glenn Ivey went to El Salvador about 2 weeks ago to try and bring Abrego Garcia home. He said this is the first step toward getting some type of due process.
Up until yesterday, apparently, the Trump administration was saying they couldn't bring him back. He was outside of their control and their jurisdiction. It's clear that they could bring him back, and hopefully they'll bring back the other 250 plus Venezuelans and others who are in this odd status of deportation, even though they haven't done anything or been convicted of any criminal activity.
I tell you, that's what breaks my heart the most. We take our little votes, we take our little tax money, and we do what they ask us to do with it. And then they send the African-American black man over to El Salvador to check on Abrego and see if he can get back. That man got to have other stuff that he can be doing. That man has absolutely got to have other stuff he can be doing other than that. The Abrego thing is going to be what it is. Illegal immigration cannot be rewarded. It cannot be like a vacation. It cannot be 5-star service. Or they're already, I was about to say, or everybody will be doing it. Well, here everybody already is doing it, it appears. And if we continue to respond to it the way we have, the problem isn't going to get any better. But we are going to have to start leaning on these corporations who are hiring these people and having their businesses raided, and they might receive some kind of a citation or a fine. No. Since we know that you exploit, you human traffic, and you underpay and have people injured in your plants, in all of the plants that are being monitored and run above board, we're having injuries. We're having reports of injuries. We have more insight to what's going on. But we put these undocumented people in your plant, no injuries. How is that possible? How is that possible? Because they don't care. These people don't mean very much to them. And the government has got to stop supporting it. And black people have to stop voting people in the office who go to El Salvador to worry about Abrego and don't go to Compton to find out what's going on with their people there while these outbursts of violence is going on. Because it ain't a whole lot of black people left in Compton. So our black legislators and politicians need to be going and checking on black people, doing wellness checks, making sure y'all good. You guys are being run out of your neighborhoods by this high illegal immigration population. We got our kids who have to share their schools. The curriculum is guided more toward the majority, and we ain't the majority. Very unfortunate place to be. But there ain't absolutely no way why we should be sending any American politician, let alone a black one, down to El Salvador to worry about Abrego. Abrego is going to be Abrego. He was the one driving in the car with 8 men with no ID and telling the police, no, nothing illegal. And they let him go. Most black men will look at that and be like, you got to be kidding me. Man, you can't even be in the car with one other brother and get pulled over and don't have a driver's license and you leaving that night. They be looking at you going crazy. They ain't even supposed to be asking passengers, and they'll bring in all that too. I were even asking the passengers. Passengers don't have to. But if you suspect that these might be 8 undocumented illegal aliens, that, like I said, if I was the cop, I would have made an identification or something wasn't right, and probably called in a supervisor, and so this guy don't feel like I'm trying to violate his civil rights or nothing. But I would have to have gotten to the bottom of that. The cops just let him go because he'd had to probably not get to eat. They're on their way to eat, and he's like, shit. If I call out our supervisor, by the time he get here and all this is over, it'd be time to go home. So they want to eat. I mean, things like that happen. But they don't never want to eat when they pull over. Man, some people they pull over, they ain't hungry. No matter what, they'll skip a lunch break to get this one in the back of the car and haul them in. But when you got stuff right there in front of you like that, I can't say with certainty. I would be leaning toward Abrego being innocent rather than guilty. But that little news clip with him driving around with unidentified people, it doesn't look good.
We're also hearing from Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen. He traveled to El Salvador and actually met with Abrego Garcia. And in a statement, he said, quote, as I have repeatedly said, this is not about the man. It's about his constitutional rights and the rights of all. The administration will now have to make.
I just hate when our politicians just stand so strong on things that they deprive citizens of. The things that they come out of their mouth, the things that they're pressing so hard for these illegal immigrants to get, so they can have things that they ain't even gave the rest of us yet. It doesn't make any sense because it's not true. It's not true. Whatever the hell Donald Trump's reason is, it ain't true. And whatever the Democrats are barking over there, it ain't true. Because if we were really looking out for these people and us people, it wouldn't be going this way. It wouldn't be this big old fiasco they got going on. There's no way you'd load the country up with a bunch of illegal immigrants knowing that the hatchet man is coming and he's going to disrupt these people's lives. Why would you do that to them?
Its case in the court of law, as it should have all along. Of course, we will continue to stay on top.
And I appreciate stories like that. It was a good story. It got right down to Abrego being a superstar and a hero. Everybody's going to be wanting his autograph when they bump into him. I mean, nobody should be lifted up like that when the beginning of their existence in this country started by sneaking in. sure, we might have to honor due process and other provisions of him being here, his existence in the United States. I'm sure there are others that we must understand and abide by. He might be a lawbreaker, but that don't mean we have to be. He might be a lawbreaker, but I don't mean we have to support him and have sympathy for a person who dug his own hole. He could have gotten to the United States another way, and if that avenue wasn't available and that door didn't open, then he might be one of millions, possibly billions, who'd like to come to the United States and live, who can't, worldwide. That's just how it is. It's a very unfortunate case for us all to have to see this stuff. But for us to get involved, if we choose to, we need to get involved with things that are, what they say, clean up your yard before you go cleaning up somebody else's. Well, everybody else's yard is looking pretty goddamn good around here. We need to clean up ours. And by not getting out and supporting anything that isn't going to better your life, your community, and your opportunities. All this other stuff makes absolutely no sense. Hell, what if they shut down Yale? If they had a choice, this is how they all think alike. They just want to make sure white kids get the best education in the country. And then when they're done educating them, then they want to go and get France and Switzerland and England and all their kids and bring them over here and educate them that they be in the second place. We ain't their priority. We are not their priority. We know we're not. But we don't have to fight to get into Harvard and Yale and Princeton and all these other places that they don't want us anyway. We should fight harder to maintain what little we have and not continue to make small gains and take large losses. Because until they figure out the police in the United States, we shouldn't be marching with nobody about nothing but our own existence, because we need to be very clear that we're here like everybody else is here, and we want to be seen and treated like everybody else. No more to ass whippings and murders in the street at the hands of cops. And immediate answers and immediate changes need to take place. You do not continue with the same policies after you just beat a man to death. You cannot say nothing went wrong. Something had to have gone wrong. If every time you pull over a black man in this country, as a courtesy to black men, you had to call out a supervisor. Every time. I'll bet you the murders will go down, but it ain't worth it, is it? That's what they think about next. Well, God dang it, we got to pay these all this money now. We had to hire more supervising sergeants to go out into the field because, yeah, you're pulling over a lot of blacks. So with that being said, it'd be nice to have somebody standing by looking out for the best interest of the police officer and the potential defendant, because that's where they're going with this. But if you get pulled over in a traffic stop and you're black, shit, if it took a half hour of my day away, I'd be okay sitting there chilling with my window up, listening to a little nice, relaxing music and taking deep breaths until the supervisors show up, rather than have to deal with that cop on the side of the road, not knowing if he's a friendly guy, a bad guy, pissed off, racist, or anything else. I'd rather just go ahead and follow the procedure that needs to be in place in this country if they really are serious about not killing black people. And black people should all, it's enough of us to each think of something really nice and push it on your own. Just your idea. If you don't do nothing but tell other people about it, at least let us know that you are thinking in that direction. There got to be one damn thing that we can ask for that don't cost the government no money. And I don't mean when you're talking about public organizations like police. That's our money. They spending our money to police us. So whatever we ask for, if it costs more, we're willing to pay it in that front. You want a police reform? Give them more money, but follow different orders and different rules and regulations than what you've been doing. We're tired of the ass whoopings. We really are. And it's got to be a new day. And I see how everyone else seems to have such a low tolerance for pain. And they think we don't. We do too. And when everyone else shows a little discomfort, people are out in the street and up in arms and doing things that they can justify, that when another group of people do it, is not justifiable. And that is racism in itself and at its core. And I think that's why we're where we are in this country in a lot of ways. Even people who are being racially resented against are racist. So that's how bad it is. Everybody wants to keep climbing up the ladder rungs until they get one higher than the people who they hate. And that's what it comes down to. Because we have shown people how we treat people who we don't like, how to racially resent against people on a professional level where no one could detect it, because it's been refined to this point where you can crush somebody's life and not even be looked at as a racist. And your complete operation could be under the shield of racism and never be detected. That's how evolved we have become with it. And it's a very terrible thing, but we're going to have to do better. And like I said, folks, if you're out there for Abrego, I don't know what to tell you. But like, comment, share, please subscribe. We'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.